Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside the Americas, our top stories for you this week. Donald Trump fires FBI Director James Comey. The White House is defending the shock move as a way to restore public trust. But Democrats claim it's just more proof of a cover-up of Trump's alleged ties to Russia. The U.S. is also being hit by a skyrocketing number of drug overdoses, up 200% since last year. Our report on the way from West Virginia, the state with the highest number of drug-related deaths. And a year and a half since Brazil was first hit by the Zika outbreak, thousands of new mothers are turning to each other for help with their babies born with microcephaly. I'm Jeannie Godula. Well, let's start first with that shock move from the Trump administration to fire FBI Director James Comey. It came from out of nowhere, right as the FBI was investigating whether Trump's campaign team had ties to Russia's meddling in the election that sent Trump to the White House. The Trump administration is defending the move as a way to restore public trust in the FBI following Comey's handling of the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails. But Democrats claim it's just more proof of a cover-up of Trump's alleged ties to Russia.
4 years into his term, and he's out. James Comey is no longer the director of the FBI, and he found out in this letter from Donald Trump.
While I greatly appreciate you informing me on 3 separate occasions that I am not under investigation, I nevertheless concur with the judgment of the Department of Justice that you are not able to effectively lead the Bureau.
This decision could have been spurred by an internal disagreement. Earlier, the FBI sent a letter to the Senate Judiciary Committee claiming Comey had been inaccurate when speaking in a Senate hearing last week. But for Democrats, the move is a political one. They say he was fired because of the FBI's ongoing investigations into allegations that Trump received Russian support during the campaign. Senator Bernie Sanders explained on Twitter that the move raised questions about what the administration was hiding. Of particular worry for Democrats is the fact that the president followed the advice of his Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, a man who was alleged to have had contact with Moscow officials during Trump's campaign.
It is troubling that Attorney General Sessions, who had recused himself from the Russian investigation, played a role in firing the man leading it.
Meanwhile, the administration denies any political motive for the decision. James Comey played an outsized role in the 2016 presidential election, announcing publicly in July that no criminal charges should be filed against Hillary Clinton for using a private email server, before reopening the investigation when new emails were found in October.
Our picture of the week comes from Canada, where several provinces were hit with massive flooding. A state of emergency was declared in Quebec as thousands were evacuated from close to 130 cities and towns. Hundreds of homes and roads were flooded in Montreal as authorities continued to evacuate residents, sometimes against their will. And our number of the week comes from Canada too, this time. 85% of all Canadian wood is exported to the U.S. But 2 weeks ago, the U.S. Trade Department began applying new taxes targeting Canadian sawmills. Spencer McNaughton has more now on the new move that could soon force some sawmills to shut down.
In northern Quebec, Charles Maher is the leader of this family-owned sawmill of 12 employees.
Here we work on white cedar. It's very rough, so we have to take off the bark.
This wood comes from bigger sawmills in other areas of Quebec. Many of these mills are now paying a 20% lumber tax when they export south of the border. These Quebec companies are preparing to reduce their operations, which would mean they would stop delivering wood to Maher. Because of this, the future of Maher's company is in jeopardy.
We're a small company, and I'm really afraid that if nothing is fixed by July, we're going to have to shut down. Our government said they would help those who directly export to the U.S., but not those hit by the collateral damages, like my company.
Not far from Maher's town is Mont-Laurier, whose economy is driven by lumber. The city's mayor, Michel Edrien, has already experienced the consequences of the protectionism in the U.S. In the 2000s, thousands of people lost their jobs during a similar crisis, and today he fears the worst.
It's a domino effect. If the lumber industry weakens, then daily consumption lowers, and there's less demand for specialized goods. The entire economy is affected.
Some local businesses are preparing for the worst.
Everything you can see, even the clothing, is designed to protect you in the dark. All these commodities here are made for woodworkers.
In the last lumber crisis, this store experienced a turnover of 25%.
This time we could lose 25 to 30% of our turnover very quickly. We are taking measures to protect ourselves. We're trying to diversify our business, and we're trying to tap into other markets than forestry. But here, everything's related to forestry, so it's tough.
In the past, the courts of the North American Free Trade Agreement have solved the different wood wars. But today, Donald Trump, the protectionist, is looking to renegotiate this agreement, which could take this wood crisis to a whole new level.
To Brazil now, where there was a courtroom showdown this week. Former left-wing president Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva testifying in the first of his 5 corruption trials. Those are linked to the sweeping Petrobras scandal that has upended Brazilian politics. Also in Brazil, it has been 18 months now since the country was first hit by the Zika virus. And now thousands of mothers are caring for babies with severe birth defects. The Zika outbreak has been linked to an alarming rise in babies born with microcephaly, a disease that affects the development of the skull and the brain. Health authorities have promised to open specialized treatment centers for the infants, but in the meantime, parents are helping each other, as Julia Seeger explains.
This is 18-month-old Arthur and his mother, Eliane. Like 2,500 other Brazilian women, she now cares for a baby left brain damaged with microcephaly after she contracted the Zika virus during her pregnancy. Eliane quit her job to take care of Arthur full-time. She now depends on minimal government benefits and is forced to take her son to the hospital every 5 days. Weekly checkups that are also helping doctors learn more about the infection.
First, we learn it's not just microcephaly. That's the tip of the iceberg and perhaps the most serious neurological alteration. But we identified many other changes that can be related to the infection by the virus during pregnancy.
Other side effects caused by Zika include deafness, brain cysts, and serious eye anomalies that can lead to blindness. And according to scientists, other symptoms have yet to be discovered. But there's also good news. According to the government's latest figures, the number of Zika infections appear to have dropped in the past year.
It's possible that a great epidemic did not take place in the big cities that had it in 2015 and 2016 due to the fact that a great part of the population already has antibodies, which makes the transmission more difficult and does not create an epidemic.
In northern Brazil, where the epidemic was the most severe, the government has announced plans to open 52 new treatment centers for these so-called Zika babies. In the meantime, mothers like Eliane have created online chat groups to find and share ways of helping their babies.
Here, I recorded the physiotherapist teaching me how to do the therapy at home for his hands. So I showed it to the group.
Arthur is not Eliane's only child. She has a 9-year-old boy who enjoys playing football with his friends, something she hopes Arthur will be able to do when he grows up.
Let's go back now to the United States, where the number of deaths from drug overdoses has increased by 200% in the past 17 years. Our report now from West Virginia, a state that has the highest number of overdose deaths per capita, twice the national average.
2 weeks before his 28th birthday, Ryan died of an overdose in a department store bathroom. His parents remember him as a good child, a memory they try not to mar with the years of watching him overdose, relapse and struggle with his heroin addiction.
And tried to get him committed to get help. I think you even begged one of the policemen to arrest him after one of the overdoses, just to get him safe, you know, to get him away from this. We tried everything we could think of to try to help him, and we still ended up in the same place.
The Browns are just one of a growing number of families losing a loved one to the opioid epidemic that's ravaging communities across the United States. West Virginia has been particularly badly hit. In 2016, over 800 people died of an overdose in the state, and the rate continues to rise.
The epidemic in the last 2 years has gotten really, really bad. I mean, everybody, all my friends, everybody I know's on it. I mean, and you know, 2 years ago, I know people that was completely against it, and nowadays it's all they do.
The current drug wave in the US started with an overprescription of highly addictive pain pills, but it snowballed into a heroin crisis that's overwhelming the police and other emergency services.
I would say 90% of what we do is drug-related. Almost every burglary that we take is drug-related. No matter what we do, I mean, just there's more and more and more opiates getting flooded into our region.
As they find solutions to some facets of the problem, new ones they haven't anticipated crop up. Harm reduction clinics like this one have been set up to avoid a potential outbreak of hepatitis from needle sharing. Community organizations, local authorities, and the Drug Enforcement Agency are joining forces to attack this epidemic on multiple fronts. A new approach against a crisis that's only grown and shows no sign of slowing down.
We'll leave you now in Venezuela, where the ongoing anti-government demonstrations were marked this week by music. This man took to the streets of Caracas to play the Venezuelan national anthem, his way of finding some sort of common language between the protesters and the police. We'll leave you with that. Thank you so much for watching this Inside the Americas. See you again next time for all the news from north to south.